everybody, it's Drybear. The end of January is upon us, so now it's time to talk about all of the awesome games coming out in February. Apologies for the flashbang, but anyone who knows me or watches my stream knows that I have a metric boatload of spreadsheets on everything in the world, and upcoming games is definitely one of those things that I love to keep track of on what's going on. So let's look at what things are coming. We have a bunch of stuff slated for 2025 that doesn't have an official release date yet. We're still waiting on like the Dune Awakening early beta release. They said it was going to be early 2025. There's a whole bunch of things that are supposed to be spring, like Mecha Break, which is going to be really awesome, but it's probably going to be in a couple months from there, and so on and so forth. But let's go ahead and just kind of make sure we zoom in here on everything coming out in February that I think are going to be big notes, that's something you might be interested in trying out. Now, I'll go in order for the rest of the list, but this one has to be first just by nature of what it is, and then it's going to be Monster Hunter Wilds. This is the latest installment in Monster Hunter and is the spiritual successor or the sequel to Monster Hunter World, which arguably has been the biggest and most well-received Monster Hunter game of the entire series, which has been around for a very long time. This is easily my most anticipated game of February and perhaps even of the entire year, as I absolutely love Monster Hunter. For anyone who's not a Monster Hunter fan, usually the way I explain this to people is that it is a ecology rich, like an environment rich game where you have to use your environment, track these monsters down and hunt them, and it's a sequence of boss fights where you collect materials from these bosses to make yourself stronger and fight bigger and bigger monsters throughout the world. But it's very immersive and enriching. The environment around you is alive. There's monsters feeding on each other, and it's very much a very cool monster hunting style game. And typically what they do with this series is they will do a 2-year break between major mainline series. They'll do a Monster Hunter release, then they'll do a DLC for that Monster Hunter, then they'll do a new Monster Hunter, then a DLC for that Monster Hunter. So we had Monster Hunter World into Iceborne, the DLC for Monster Hunter World. Then they did Monster Hunter Rise, and then they did Sunbreak, which was the DLC for Rise. And now we're finally getting Monster Hunter Wilds. And I think they did a bunch of experimentation with Monster Hunter Rise on more of an arcadey style of playing the game, with the wire bugs jumping up in the air, mounting monsters and riding them around like My Little Pony, going all over the place. And they learned a lot about what's fun and what's not. And they tried a whole bunch of new things for new weapons. But Monster Hunter Wilds is more of the realistic, more immersive version of Monster Hunter that people fell in love with Monster Hunter World. I think a lot of people that weren't originally Monster Hunter fans got their start with Monster Hunter World and are now addicted to the Monster Hunter series. So I think this is easily going to be one of the best games of the year and one of the most anticipated ones as well. So whether you're someone who is a major fan of Monster Hunter or you're someone looking to get into it, I think, you know, in a month now, just 4 weeks away, we will be right on board with Monster Hunter Wilds. And don't worry, we will be covering on this channel. Next up, a special mention for a game that just came out 2 days ago, Eternal Strands. This is a very interesting RPG game. It's got lots of really weird and fun takes on things. You can climb monsters like you can in Shadow of the Colossus. There's some really cool elemental mixtures. They remind me a little bit of like Spellbreak. There's some storytelling, some RPG elements for gear and crafting, and you get a whole bunch of that stuff with really cool gameplay overall. So if you're looking for a fun RPG, this one's getting great reviews. It is from, I believe it's their first game, but there's some really cool things you can do with combining elements and mixing things together and also playing around with what's available in the game. So if you're looking for something to play, you can pick this up right now. It is available, just came out 2 days ago live. So a good one to check out as well. Now, if you've never played Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, you absolutely need to. It is easily one of the most enjoyable, unhinged, wild, and crazy choice-riddled storylines that you can experience. You can be an unhinged degenerate and kill everyone. You can mess around in the town. You can date some of the characters that you run into. You can gamble. You can save people. You have all these different options. Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of the best games that you can play in this space. If you like games like Witcher or even some CRPGs with lots of exploration, I think KCD1 is amazing for that. And on February 4th, they're releasing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is an amazing story game. You may not have time to get a full playthrough of KCD1 if you haven't played it yet, and it is a continuation with the same main character, so it might be valuable to play through KCD1 before going through Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but it is amazing. The combat is satisfying, the dialogue is hilarious, and the core story and narrative, I think, is awesome as well. This is definitely one of those games you don't want to miss if you are a story/RPG kind of player. This is one that should be up there in the Hall of Fame for you. I love the first one one, it's really good, and the second one's shaping up to be even better. The next mention here is Rift of the NecroDancer. Assuming I can spell the top left corner right. You are definitely cool in my book if you know the first game they made with the NecroDancer in general. It is a Crypt of the NecroDancer. They also did Cadence of Hyrule. So they're all about rhythm games and fun, and this one looks like it's going to be in the same vein and super cool. So on February 5th, Rift of the NecroDancer comes out, and so if you like rhythm games or you like just fun, kooky games, I think this is an easy one to check out. Usually these games tend to not be too long in general, but there are people that have been playing Crypt of the NecroDancer over and over and over again for years and still getting good value and enjoyment out of it. So definitely keep this one on your radar as well. Next up is a game that has had some demos and looks pretty raunchy, like just crazy. So if you like simulator games, this one is Ambulance Life. It is a simulation of being a paramedic in game world, and it is very extensive, down to the injuries, the symptoms, how to get people up off the ground, the kind of accidents you experience. It does have its own storyline as well. So if you love simulator games, this one is definitely one to keep an eye on. And from what we've seen from the demo, as well as the early access editions that people have had, this one is one of the better simulator games that you can play. Now, it does seem like they don't pull their punches on the kind of accidents, gas stations exploding, car accidents, people falling off of buildings, like nasty, crazy stuff. And they are very much on the realistic side of things. But again, if you like simulators, if you like this kind of idea, check this one out, because this one is getting some good early reviews from people that had a chance to try it out. On the same day, February 6th, is a game called Big Helmet Heroes. And when they first showed this trailer, it was the cinematic that you see here, which doesn't explain a whole lot of what the game is about. It kind of reminded me of Dungeon Defenders. It's got that kind of goofy vibe to it, but it ends up being more of like a top-down, almost like a Streets of Rage style action game with some really cool mechanics and almost like Astro Bot style arcade multiplayer co-op gameplay. So if you're looking for something to play with a buddy, or you just want to, a nice wind down game at the end of the day, then I'd say that Big Helmet Heroes is definitely in that vibe. So this is the actual gameplay here. It's got that top-down element to it, which allows you to just kind of play. It's got a lot of kooky vibes, some different classes and gameplay styles, different boss encounters. There's also power-ups where you can become super large or transform into a monster, and all of these things can be woven together in different actions. So if you just look for some smash 'em up, some really cool arcade style gameplay fun, it looks like this one's gonna be pretty decent. Next up is Sid Meier's Civilization 7. Every single time we get a new Civ game, it tends to set the standard for what we should expect for 4X genre. And I know the 4X genre is not the most popular in the world, but I think even if you don't regularly play 4X or these kind of simulation strategy games, you probably have heard of Civilization, or at least played one of the civilizations that have come along. So this one is a huge step forward for a lot of reasons. Over the last couple of years, we have gotten a few very good 4X games. One of my favorites was Humankind, like 2 years ago. Very, very good addition to this, but Civ 7 is proving to be the next step up, the new trendsetter in this genre. If you've never played 4X games before, they're called 4X because they have like 4 different areas. You have to worry about economy and politics and military and expansion and all of these things. Like, you control all of the development of an entire nation. You have to interact with other nations. Sometimes these games can go on for days or even weeks. Sometimes they can be very fast, but it's very much involved on growing an entire nation yourself, making key decisions with random things that might pop up and change policy or affect politics with other people. They're very involved, and they usually take a little bit longer to learn because there's so many different mechanics and so many different things to dive into. But I do think that Civilization is a game that everyone should give a chance to at least once. And if you've never played a Civ game, or you really haven't explored the 4X genre, I would argue that Civilization 7 is a good place to start, as this will have a lot of really cool, they've done a good job of adding more like fun visibility to things. So like animations when things upgrade and more things like that. So give it a shot on the 11th. If you are a JRPG fan, we got a new one coming from Nihor Valcom, The Legend of Heroes. This is a second game setup, and I think honestly, there's actually a lot of really good JRPGs that come out regularly and get released. And so it's easy to kind of miss some of these, but I do think that Legend of Heroes is worth watching. This second installment of Trails Through Daybreak, I think overall should be a really good customization. I actually haven't messed around with the mechanics of this just yet from what they've shown us so far, but overall, it is a Trails game. It's a Legend of Heroes. They can be, I think there's going to be a really cool opportunity for people that really like JRPGs in here. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, if you play JRPGs, I wasn't super thoroughly impressed with some of the ones that we got in Q4 last year, but this one does seem to turn up a little bit. So on February 14th, if you're interested, this one will be available. Up next is a game that has been highly anticipated for quite a while. I think they showed this off 2 or 3 years ago. The early trailers looked awesome, and we know that they are a great source of awesome games at Obsidian. Some of my favorite games of all time have been done by Obsidian, so I'm very excited about this game in general. But what's interesting about this one is it kind of has found itself embroiled in a little bit of the political drama right now. A lot of the developers have been outspoken against other people, like content creators or reviewers or other developers. There's been a lot of kind of drama around this game, so there's a big question on whether if this drama is going to seep its way into the gameplay or not, or if we're going to experience something brand new. Overall, again, I have very heavy trust for Obsidian. I think they've managed to do it again and again over the years, and I hope with this team they do it again with Avowed, as the game does look very visually stunning. It's another Obsidian RPG, so you got to know that the writing is going to be really cool and engaging. There's some new mechanics in here, and the environment seems cool. So, you know, let me know what you think about Avowed if you're going to be picking it up on February 18th. It is available simul-release on consoles and PC as well, and it's another Obsidian game which should fit right into the library. But again, there's definitely some concerns right now around how much drama and political discourse this game has been drawing, with the lead developers of the game being very outspoken on social media and other platforms, talking about things outside of just the game, just political beliefs and things like that. So let me know what you think about the game and if you're excited for it down below. Next up is another game from Don't Nod. I have a very soft spot for Don't Nod as well. A lot of their games are very special and memorable in a lot of ways, and this one is Lost Records Bloom and Rage. They went for an episodic approach with this one, so they're going to be doing what they're calling tapes, which is just episodes for the game. So they're going to be doing tape 1, tape 2. So tape 1 launches on February 18th, and then tape 2 will be coming out in March. And they've only shown a little bit of the gameplay in general, but the animations look great. The story atmosphere looks great. This looks like it's going to be more of a natural story progression where you meet the characters and some crazy stuff happens. But it's a very cool, like dialogue-driven choice-making game. Then it comes from Don't Nod, so you know it's probably going to leave, you know, a scar on your heart or some kind of emotional baggage from it that you'll remember for a long time. And I think in general it's one to pay attention to. A little bit smaller than some of these other games we've talked about, but I think it is worth mentioning for people that like Don't Nod in general, or like these kind of games as a nice break from the mainline AAA like Assassin's Creed stuff that's always being talked about. Lastly, I want to talk about Die in the Dungeon. This is more of an indie game that mixes together a whole bunch of different genres, and the game designer in me is curious to see how they've managed to put them together. So we've already talked about the end of the month big release Monster Hunter Wilds, but this one's towards the end of February, and this one is essentially, based on what they've shown us, a mix between auto battlers as a genre, roguelites, as well as a little bit of puzzle game as well. So if you like these kind of indie roguelikes, I think this is one to keep an eye on for the end, you know, for February 21st coming out, and mixing together the auto battler portion of being able to set your character up for success before the battle goes, and then watching it play out based on how you perform, and then being able to contain the roguelite elements of moving between stages and fighting monsters, I think is all very unique. And I believe this is the first game from this studio that's doing this, so it's going to be kind of like a good start for them, but it has all these kind of new takes, fresh takes on these kinds of games. So if you're a roguelite fan, check out Die in the Dungeon February 21st. And that's what we got going on for the month. You can tell by my wallpaper that I'm very much ready for Monster Hunter Wilds, but there is a bunch of really great games coming out this month, or games that came out in the last few days as well to check out. If there's other games that you think are really awesome, but we haven't put it on this list, drop those down in the comments below so other people don't miss it either, and we'll see you in the next one. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.